world's most respected MMO news site, Massively Overpowered, comes a program that pits one MMO against another in a battle of wits. To the death. Welcome to Massively Opinionated. Media personalities from all over the internet come to this forum to face off in the ultimate debate. Everyone is entitled to their wrong opinion, but ours is the only one that matters. Having heard that someone was wrong on the internet, it's your host, Larry Everett!
Hey everyone, this is Larry Everett, and you're watching Massively Opinionated, where we bring those arguments that you have on the forums with your friends and foes and bring them into this forum in one program. We invite journalists and bloggers and other internet personalities to this show to battle it out to see which one of these MMO tropes is actually the best. And today we have very special guests. We have from Massively Opinionated, or excuse me, Massively Overpowered. We have our columnist who does the Wisdom of Nim as well as Wow Factor. It is Eliot Lefebvre. I said that name right?
Yes, you did. You did actually say it right. You said it right. I'm very impressed. Justin's been working for me with me longer than you have, and he still doesn't get it right. So, good on you, buddy.
And then, from my guild in Star Wars The Old Republic, Nefarious Intent, we have the one and only Laura Williams. How's it going?
Hello!
So, are you going to be wearing those sunglasses the whole show?
No, probably not. But see, not everybody can pull these off, but I really feel like I can.
You really work
them. Hard to rock heart-shaped sunglasses.
It's true.
You know, not everybody can, so...
Not everybody can, especially over the age of 6.
And then also former Massively writer and random guy that we picked off the street, it is Matt Daniel. How's it going, Matt?
It's going pretty well, actually. It's great to be, talking with you fine folks again.
Okay, so today's show is going to revolve around immersion in MMOs and what can pull us out of immersion, what can put us into it, make things more immersive. But what I want to talk about first off are the rules to this program and how everything works. So what's going to happen is that I have 4 questions that I've given to these guys ahead of time. They all have had time to research them. They know these answers, and they gave them to me, just so I realized, I can make sure that they don't match each other's. And then what's going to happen is I will award them a point for whoever has the best argument. It's not based off of my opinion, but rather the best argument. And then after 4 questions, whoever has the most points wins the game, if you will, for the program. If for some reason we end up with a tie, I do have an extra question that they have not seen yet. They have not had time to research, and well, we can we can get into that if we
I think it would be easier to just settle it by trial by combat.
Yeah, I can do trial by combat.
Unfair advantage.
First off, if we're doing that, I want Jello wrestling.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
I'll get the Jello. What flavor do you prefer? I'm partial to orange myself.
Matt, I didn't know you cared.
Oh, darling. You know you will always have a special place in my heart and in my Jello-filled kiddie pool.
Oh, the feels.
So, like I said, this show this time around is going to be all about immersion and what immerses people into MMOs and what pulls them out of MMOs. So, and people find immersion in different kinds of ways. Some it's all about the mechanics and make sure that they all splice together well, or it could be the storyline. It could be there's all sorts of different factors that cause immersion that help people get immersed into the game, to feel like they're a part of it. But however, this first question, and I'm going to go to Eliot first on this one, is what is the biggest way to pull most people, or the most people, out of immersion in an MMO? Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Best way to draw people out of the game? Other people. That's the thing, is that, you know, it's not, I mean, game mechanics can be a little bit setting breaking, but it's a video game. We all know an MMO is a video game. All of us are well aware of this fact, but nothing breaks your immersion like someone named Daenerys Targaryen standing on a table, stripping all of her gear off, and dancing for no reason when you're in the middle of doing something. That's what really will kick you out of the game and remind you that if other people aren't taking you seriously, or taking this seriously, you can't either. And in some cases, that's kind of a good thing, breaks tension. It can, you know, sort of remind everybody, okay, this is just for fun, this is silly. But nothing breaks it faster than someone just, you know, dicking around and not taking it seriously, not acting like the game is a real place, because if people stop acting that way, it shatters the illusion immediately.
All right, excellent. So, Laura, what do you have to say?
Well, first off, I completely disagree with that. Table dancers need money too. Like, let's support the single moms. Mailbox dancing, totally a valid form of income.
And the single dads, come on. And the single, why am I holding scissors?
Why are you holding scissors?
Why do I have all these weapons on my desk?
This is how horror movies start.
Yeah.
like inside your mouth.
Lick it.
Well, that escalated quick. Yeah, that's right. Do it. Excellent. And screen cap.
Okay, so first off, I think that really the most immersion breaking thing is just glitches and graphic things that don't load. So I can remember years ago we got talked into playing Vanguard. And my husband and I are running around, and I looted this hat, and I went to go put it on. And when I put it on my head, instead of having a hat, I had a box that was blue and white checkered because it had no graphic. So I'm running around with a cube on my head because there was no graphic for it. How am I supposed to play and take that seriously? I finally just had to take it off, even though it had stats, because I was like, this looks retarded.
Working as intended.
Yeah, working as intended. But even when the games have been out for long times, like Star Wars, for example, right now, the planet Rishi has this bridge. When you're coming off from the flight path to run into the town proper, it has this, I don't know, it's like a pier hovering over water that used to be there. And now all of a sudden, there's no pier. There's no nothing. You're running. You're like playing Indiana Jones, taking that leap of faith, trying to get to the Holy Grail. Totally immersion breaking. How am I supposed to deal with that? How am I supposed to take that seriously? How am I supposed to say without falling in fear? Because apparently nobody in Star Wars can swim, which is why all the water, by the way, is ankle deep, which is also ridiculous.
I'm surprised you didn't go for a Lonely Island reference with your head in a box.
That's true.
That seems less Lonely Island and more Seven.
I'm on a boat.
Also Seven. You know, you got to point...
Where do you keep getting all these sharp objects, Eliot?
I don't know.
I can do a few. I've got some scissors here.
I've got keys. That's the best I've got.
Nail clippers?
Nail clippers.
Yes.
That's not a nail clipper.
Okay, let's stay on track.
Okay, yeah.
Matt, what pulls you out of immersion, or what is the most immersion breaking for you?
For me personally, it's got to be just overly intrusive and cluttered user interfaces. It's just, you know, when you have just panels and buttons and windows flashing up all in front of you, and, you know, especially in free-to-play games when it's, you know, popping up to tell you, hey, for the low price of $9.99, you can get all this stuff that you don't actually need. It just completely kills any immersion I have in the game at that point. That's pretty much it.
Wait a minute, but how... Okay, so if you don't have your UI there that's telling you everything with all of your information, how are you going to know that you are doing the most DPS? How are you going to wave that E-beam?
You're right. I'm sorry. You're right. What was I thinking?
And how are you going to have, if you don't have your mini-map there so that you can track where that next quest is, or that rare mob that happened to spawn over here, or, hey, there's a flower that you need to pick.
Chatter, then...
It's okay, guys. It's okay. Tiso found a way to make sure that even if you don't have the UI, you still got a zone-wide message reminding you, hey, we've got a thing for sale.
And come on now, you really want to be a subscriber because you get so much more,
Exactly.
You get those extra action bars.
Oh my God. Hold on a second. Let me get my credit card.
Okay, so it's clear. I mean, I think everybody can agree that all of these things, in one way or another, will pull you out of the game. I mean, glitches certainly will pull you out. I mean, you can't. In fact, I mean, some of them just. I mean, you completely realize that. Oh, I am now in a game with glitches. But what I'd like to hear, if we could, is why is, and I'm going to throw this to Eliot since he started us off here. Why are other players more immersion breaking than, say, glitches or UI or something along that line?
The thing is that game glitches are unique. Game glitches are if a glitch happens, that's something that's not supposed to happen, and it's not universal in every game. It happens, but it's far less likely to consistently pull you out of the immersion in a number of games than people. A really bad glitch will pull you out, yeah. But it's not like that really bad glitch is going to happen in every game that you play, whereas you're going to be dealing with other people in every game you play, and you're always going to have the person who's, jumping up and down incessantly before everything and cannot speak in anything more than 2-word phrases. Similarly, compared to, you got your UI elements, and yeah, the UI can be, a little cluttered, but most games these days offer you some option to customize your UI. Most games give you some way to minimize it. Yeah, it can be a little bit obtrusive, but that's like saying, oh, well, what's really immersion breaking when watching an episode of Law and Order is the fact that it stops every few minutes for advertisements. Yeah, it does, but that's, again, it's one of those, it's part of the nature. Again, this is a video game. It's a video game, but people not taking the game seriously and not letting you sink into it like a comfortable pair of slippers, that's going to pull you out every time. That's not a result of programming issues, and that's not a result of, they have a sale and they need to make money.
So, Matt, I'm interested to know, because this is kind of, I like the things about, being him saying it was universal, and that with the custom UIs and things along that line, especially with like World of Warcraft and games like that. How does that? Why is that more immersion breaking and over other players? I guess is the question at this point. What do you say to that?
Well,
yeah, it's on you now, Matt.
Okay, great. No pressure or anything. That's great. Excuse me, we'll have a panic attack.
Get another.
Eliot, this is out of control. We need to get you help. Okay, well, my thing is, you say, Eliot, that, UIs are just part of the game. But we're talking about massively multiplayer online games. Other players are also just part of the game, aren't they? If they weren't, then it wouldn't be an MMO, would it? It would just be an RPG. That being said, I totally agree with you that, other players acting like idiots definitely does, break your immersion pretty hardcore. But at the same time, there's slash ignore for a reason. And no, it doesn't stop you from seeing the, naked Daenerys Targaryen, dancing on the table or mailbox or wherever she's plying her trade that particular evening. But still, it can curtail the annoyance. So for me personally, I think the UI, obtrusive UIs, are just a way bigger immersion breaker because they are always there. Your UI is something, if you want to play the game effectively, you need a UI. So if you get rid of it to enhance your immersion, you are thereby detracting from your actual gameplay.
Okay, so can you then tell me how that compares to glitches then? We've covered other players. What about glitches?
Well, glitches, assuming that the game isn't a complete and utter train wreck, will only happen, occasionally, God willing. So sure, glitches are pretty immersion breaking, but at the same time, they are not as constant as the UI is. Same deal. The UI is always there. So, whereas glitches will hopefully only show up every once in a while, if it's not consistent.
So both Matt and Eliot have mentioned that that glitches in MMOs aren't always constant. They do get fixed, and they're not universal, so not between game to game. So what is your argument for glitches?
Well, that's true. Sometimes they are not always constant, but even if it's not the same one over and over, there's still constantly glitches there that do pull things out. And it could be something like the Star Wars one where it's been months where they just haven't even gotten around to fix it because it's so low on the totem pole for them to even care about, hey, oh yeah, by the way, the bridge is actually there, but you don't see it.
So magic
I would say that. And as far as people,
it's a force bridge.
You can turn people's names off. So if you don't like seeing the name, you don't have to see the name. And typically in an MMO, once you get out of your starter, like the noob zone, you're not going to run into people that are trying to, table dance. Unless it's on an RP server and they're just looking to herb. In which case, sometimes that can be really hysterical.
It's true.
Toss your credits that way and see what internet
values
come up with.
So one thing that was brought up by both Laura and Matt is that you can ignore players. There is /ignore for a reason, right? And you can turn off nameplates. So what's your thoughts on that, Eliot?
I mean, yeah, you can ignore players. You can turn players off, but as honestly, Matt kind of made my argument for me. He said players are always there. They're part of the game. And the thing is that if you just, auto-ignore everyone, turn all names off, then you might as well be playing a single-player RPG. The result is you always kind of have to leave yourself half open for these things to happen. It can't be random chance or, poor programming. It can't be, an advertisement when a sale is going on. It's just, you never know. You have no way of predicting when someone's going to, come along on an RP server and, do something to you that you have no idea when it's going to happen. It's a natural product of being in the game, and it's the easiest way to throw you out of it.
Okay, Laura, final argument.
I'm gonna say that glitches are the biggest problem because, again, you can turn names off, you can move away from areas where you don't have to interact with the idiot that's bouncing up and down or trying to, hump you or whatever it is that they're doing. And as far as the UI elements go, a lot of games now, they do give you the option that you can customize. So you can try to turn things off. And if you're a subscriber, you're not going to run into those annoying pop-up ads saying, buy this and subscribe and you want this. And, you can kind of tuck it away. And so it can be very unobtrusive. But I can't do anything about something that's been programmed in the game because I'm not a programmer.
Okay. Matt,
better start learning.
What are your final thoughts?
Well, I mean, my argument's still kind of the same as it was before. Like Eliot said, there's no telling when a player will pop up and break your immersion, but at the same time, it may never actually happen. Whereas if the UI is complete and utter, shit, then it's just always going to be. It's always going to be in your face. And yes, like Laura said, you can, in any, most games that are worth the previously aforementioned, you can customize your UI and hopefully minimize the impact it has on your immersion. But not every game offers that. And for some people, it's just too much trouble. Some people don't want to have to bother with that. So if the default UI is what you're stuck with, and it's completely obtrusive and just constantly in your face, you're pretty much boned as far as immersion is concerned because good luck playing without it.
Dude, if you hate the UI that much, you're probably not playing that game.
Exactly.
Okay, so there is a couple of things that I like about each one of your arguments. For instance, I like the idea that this is part of the game with both Laura and Matt, that there's not a whole lot you can do about it. However, that being said, the UI, there is custom UIs that you can make on certain games and things along that line. However, it's not universal. You can't do that in every game. The other thing though that I think just that is like a point against Eliot is that the /ignore. You can also get rid of the nameplates. That's definitely a point against Eliot. And whereas glitches, okay, so the big thing that caught me on glitches is that it's not universal. Not every single game has the exact same glitch. So I really couldn't side with glitches there. And then as far as the UI is concerned, I think the biggest thing there that I'm concerned with is that most UIs that are obtrusive or whatever can be customized and things along that line. But really, what did it for me with Eliot's, no matter what other players do, they're going to pull you out. That's universal amongst every single MMO that's out there. So the point goes to Eliot.
Yay, Eliot. See, Larry, I told you that Eliot is going to make a fool of me on this podcast, and I'm okay with it. And it's already begun.
Okay, so for this next question, two of you guys have the same answer. So I'm going to have to figure out some way to differentiate the two of you. And,
I'm pretty sure I know which two of them.
And
I'm pretty sure.
So anyway, what this question is fairly simple. It is, which MMO is the most immersive? And so I'm going to throw this one to Laura.
I picked City of Heroes, which I know is no longer playable, but I always felt like I had the most immersion in that because everyone's all sad here. Yes. It was very sad. Because right up. Oh yes, I'm super sad phase too.
Okay, I'm better.
Super sad phase. I feel like I always had the most immersion in City of Heroes because even from level 1, you have random NPCs that just kind of run up to you and they're like, "Oh my gosh, thank you for saving me," or "Oh my gosh, you're amazing." And they kind of reacted to your exploits as you leveled up. If you were going around killing a bunch of Vasilok, you'd get somebody that would be like, "Oh my gosh, did you hear about, whatever your hero's name was? They killed a whole bunch of this." And, later on, as you're taking out 5th column, they're like, "Oh, so-and-so came," and they've got the newspaper boy that's talking about your exploits. And, random people eventually come and run up to you and they're like, "I want your autograph and I'm going to name my baby after you." And I mean, just the way the world interacted with you, you can't beat that. On top of the fact that, the customization to make your own hero was amazing. I spent 2 years not even logging into the game, just playing in the costume creator because I had so much fun building costumes for my characters. I mean, you can't beat that.
May I just say here, that's why you always named your hero something like random weather occurrences. Oh, did you hear random weather occurrences took out all those Vasilok? Did you hear faulty construction equipment took out all those Vasilok? I hear the 5th column got taken down by loud noise.
Actually, my husband and I had dual characters, so we ran together. We were Milk and Cookies. I was Milk.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
What was your power exactly?
What was my power?
I'm afraid to ask. Milk, yeah, see?
Milk is a power.
It is.
Milk was a fire controller.
Okay.
So I had imps because I wanted to be able to run around and solo stuff and just farm. So.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, Matt, so I have to ask you, which is your most immersive MMO?
Well, I mean, it's Final Fantasy XIV to me. It's, like I said...
What?
Hey, back off, okay? It's his answer, too.
Yes. I knew it was you.
It had to be. Of course. Sorry, darling. But, I mean, okay. I just went on that big rant about how the UI can make or break immersion and stuff. In Final Fantasy's, its UI is fantastic. It's out of the way. Everything's easily accessible when you need it. But when you don't need it, it's buggered off somewhere else. So it's got that much going for it. Plus, the one thing that really stands out to me about Final Fantasy XIV is the NPC dialogue. Every NPC with whom you interact has a very, well, for the most part, has a very unique voice that gives them personality, even if it's just a few lines of dialogue. It really just, it makes you feel like you're not just talking to, you know, random NPC number 792, you're talking to someone who actually has a personality and likes and dislikes and, you know, a dialect, what have you. Plus, something else that's huge for me is it has a lot of small quality of life features that most people probably don't care about, but to role players like me are huge, like the ability to actually sit in chairs at a table. That's great. It's amazing. You can change your facial expression. You can change the way that your character stands when they're idle, and just all these things combined to really be able to put you into the world, make you feel like you're a part of it, rather than just, you know, one of many players running around, you know, doing their quests.
In fairness to Matt, I would like to point out, since he's talking about being able to, the sit is context sensitive, so it depends if you're near. You know, if you're near crates, you sit on crates. If you're near a bed, you sit on the bed. If you're near a bench, your character will react to what.
The first time
you had
that
like
I sat,
50 sitting emotes in City of Heroes. I'm just gonna say.
Oh, I know you had 50
and
sitting
leaning
emotes.
on walls and looking super cool.
I played City of Heroes until it closed down. Don't you flex on
the game is gorgeous, so there's that.
All right, now I will give you that. It is a beautiful game. I got my unicorn and then I quit because I was like, oh, I've got nothing else to do except ride around on a unicorn.
Is that not enough for you? Are you never satisfied?
I wasn't. I rode around naked on my unicorn all over the place. It was fantastic.
Ugh, some people.
Okay, this is going to be a little bit of a tough one, but Eliot, go ahead. I'm going to have to differentiate you guys just a little bit, but go ahead, Eliot.
I can do this, and I'm not going to hit any of the same points Matt did. Not even touch on them because, you know,
way better just to make a fool of me.
I'm not making a fool out of you. Are you wearing pants?
No. Yes.
Awesome. And it's my fault. Okay.
Boxers are kind of like pants.
Isn't it always your fault? Yes, it is. Carry on.
Okay. See, you know, I'm going to say, you know, yeah, great NPC dialogue, pretty game, you know, quality of life features. But here's the thing, you know, that applies to a lot of different MMOs. A lot of, I think, what makes, you know, 14 stand out, among other things, is actually, I have to go back to this. I have to go back to the first Star Wars movie. Very first one, A New Hope. One of the things that made that movie so great, and this is one of the reasons I still love the original trilogy. I don't like Star Wars, but I love the original trilogy, is that when you looked at everything on the set, every vehicle, every setting, everything, it always looked like it had been lived in. You could see nicks on paint jobs. You could see, you know, wear and tear on the buildings. You could see it, nothing, you could see, you know, drinks on counters. Everything didn't look like it was, you know, sterile and arranged to be a movie set. It looked like if you just kind of walked in there and then went off to the left, there was still going to be a world there. 14 does the same thing. When you go into a location, there are NPCs standing there. There are NPCs who you never talk to, never interact with, who are doing things that make perfect sense. There's all these little touches, all these little things all over the world. When you're watching enemies out in the world, they move around, they react, they act. Everything in the game is built very much to look like this is a real functional world. Everything you do is meant to contribute to the idea that this is a real functional world. You don't just have classes. Every single class, you know, like gladiators, they're not just, okay, well, this is the class that uses a sword and a shield. This is the class that, you know, specifically comes from a tradition in Ul'dah, which is, you know, related to a specific form of combat. When you become a paladin, it's not just, okay, now you're a more powerful gladiator. No, that's, again, related to a specific tradition in the game world. There's specific lore about that. There's specific setting influences about that. And as a result, it very much feels like there's nothing extraneous. Even the mechanical conceits of the game are very much tied into what the setting is and what the story is, so that, you know, as you're playing, you don't just feel like, oh, this is my mount. You feel like, oh, this is my chocobo, who I very specifically own, who I've named, who I dress up and, you know, put in the barding that I want, who I have, you know, fed. And I feel like everything mechanically that happens also has some kind of thematic lore connection.
Okay, so this is a little bit of a tough one because Matt and Eliot both have the same game is going to be a little bit difficult, but I do think that I have enough differentiation between the two arguments here that I can look at them individually and separately. So my initial thought on how to examine this is obviously we got City of Heroes with Laura, but then with Matt is more of the mechanics like the UI and also the things that the character can do, like sitting in chairs and sitting on beds and those kinds of things. So you're talking more of a like an action-oriented kind of thing and a UI-oriented kind of argument here, whereas Eliot's argument is more like the lore behind it and the setting and how and not just the setting itself, but how things kind of relate back to the setting. So how everything within the game relates back to the setting.
Yeah, everything has a place.
Yeah, but I mean, even so, it's still going to be a little bit difficult to choose between the two of you since you have the same game.
Yeah, we kind of Matt and I kind of had.
Yeah,
we set ourselves up for a fall here.
Anyway, regardless, there's a lot of things in here, and the one of the coolest things that I think was with City of Heroes that I saw was the random NPCs talking to you and that sort of thing. And one of the things that Eliot said and this is what I kind of looking for you to answer here, Laura, is your weapon set determining your class. So I mean, you have, or rather, in Final Fantasy, you have the different classes, and you can play through different classes, and it doesn't really matter there. Does that help with immersion, or does having a single class help as far as that's concerned? I mean, so basically, is it better to have one set and you stick with that, one weapon class set and you stick with that, or having the ability to do multiple weapon sets? I mean, why is yours better than the other one?
So Eliot said that one of the big things was talking about lore, and when you were a paladin, there was all this great stuff that went behind it. So I pick up my bow, and I'm a bard, and I can sit here and sing. And now I pick up a sword, and now I'm a paladin or a warrior. Oh, I pick up a polearm, now I'm a dragoon. Don't get me wrong, I think it's a great way to level all of the classes, and I really, really liked that mechanic. But it was like I just pick up something else, and now I'm whatever else I am. I mean, that's completely immersion breaking to me. It doesn't give me any connection to what I was doing or the storyline of what was going on, because it didn't matter. As soon as I pick something else up, okay, now I can do this. So that's why I think that City of Heroes was a little bit better. I mean, yeah, you had your one straight class. I wasn't a way that I could be multiple things all on the same character, but I always felt like it was great, because even when you were going into door missions, I never had to go and collect 12 bear asses in order to level up. I mean, yeah, it was always go straight and fight maybe the low-level people, get the little grunts off the street, the little crack dealers and stuff, and take those guys out. And then you work up to the lieutenants. And then finally you're working up to where you're actually taking out the masterminds. And that just seems more immersive than, okay, so I'm going to put this hat on right now, and then I'm going to change and put this hat on.
Okay, Eliot, do you have any response to that?
Yeah, I do. See, the thing is, you can argue, why is it that my character knows how to be a Lancer if they just pick up a lance? Well, for one thing, unless you've already been practicing on Lancer, you don't. You know how to, thrust forward with the lance, which... Not to, put too fine a point on it, but I think even without any training, you can figure that part out.
So good.
But,
sticking with the pointy end.
In order to, actually, be a dragoon, you have to first go through the training, and, you have to level the character. And most of the skills that you learn while wielding a lance are not the same as the skills that you use while, say, wielding an axe. There are some that are the same, and you know what? That's part of the game's whole cross-class system. By contrast, in City of Heroes, okay, we're talking about Milk, fire controller. Why could Milk never figure out any of the other tricks that everyone else with a very closely related fire set manages to do? Why is it that, you only ever have control over one very narrow possible slice of applications for all these things? I remember, playing an
I was a little girl. I didn't want some dude punching me in the face.
But I'm saying, I was playing an ice character, but I could never, I was playing an ice tanker, but I could never figure out how to, throw ice more than about 5 feet in front of my face. I could never figure out how to, freeze someone consistently in ice, despite the fact that theoretically I have power over ice. Why am I only able to do this one really narrow thing? When dealing with this, supposedly godlike power. I mean, it made sense that, not to mention that City of Heroes did a really bad job of distinguishing between supernatural powers and it's just this guy who's really good with a bow and arrow. Like, compared to, I mean, obviously everyone's going to think of the Avengers, but that's kind of the running joke with the Avengers, that Hawkeye is just some dude with a bow and arrow compared to,
Dude, don't be knocking on Trick Arrow, because that was an awesome power set.
I'm not knocking on Trick Arrow. Trick Arrow mechanically was a fine power set. The point is that, if you're comparing that to, okay, so you've got the guy who has mastered Trick Arrow, and you've got the guy who's mastered, radiation emission, and they are exactly as powerful as one another.
Yeah, but radiation could heal you. I'm going to heal you by poisoning.
Maybe it just kills you over the long term.
Well, it's a suspension of disbelief. You gotta leave. That's all I'm gonna leave it at.
Isn't that saying that, right there? Okay, that's,
But it's not the same as me picking up another hat and saying, oh, let me just throw this on and now I can do this too. And eventually you would level up and be able to say, oh, yes, now I can swirl it around and be a baton twirler with my pole arm.
Do two different things. Okay.
Okay, so I'm getting a clear distinction here between City of Heroes and Final Fantasy XIV, as far as the lore is concerned and how immersive the lore is. And so what I want to do now is throw it to you, Matt, if I could, and I need to be able to differentiate the two arguments here and see which one is better between the two Final Fantasy things. Is it yours, Matt? Is it the UI and the actions that your character takes, or is it that everything ties back to the lore? Go ahead. What is your thoughts on that?
Okay, so look, I'm gonna level with you here. I have no defense. I just wasn't clever enough to come up with the arguments that Eliot did. I've got nothing. I mean, all of the things that Eliot said, I completely agree with, and they are a huge part of what contributes to my immersion in Final Fantasy. It's just that I am not as clever as he is, and therefore didn't come up with those things when I was given the question. So, I mean,
dude, you're just.
I mean, I can play devil's advocate, but I got to be honest. The things he said play a huge part. It is a huge reason why Final Fantasy is such an immersive feel to it, and
because unicorns.
Because unicorns. That's my argument right there. Because unicorns, Larry.
My rebuttal to that is going to be Matt is a handsome gentleman and, very talented, friendly.
Oh, stop it, you. But no, please, go on.
Great guy.
This is a super hard decision between City of Heroes and Final Fantasy XIV. And I mean, I love this, the tie, really the lore being enveloped in the game. And the thing is, though, at the same time, lore has kind of been enveloped in City of Heroes as well. It's slightly different, but I mean, the lore kind of takes every single part from the missions to what the types of missions and whatnot, and you're also elevated to the higher statuses and NPCs talking to you and those kinds of things within City of Heroes. However, I'm not real familiar with that in regards to Final Fantasy XIV. Is this something that exists Is there something similar to that in that game, or explain how would you defend against that?
There are actually a lot of NPCs whose dialogue change as you go through the game, as you complete story quests, as you choose allegiances and stuff. There are a lot of NPCs who you can talk to who will say different things based on what you do. There are lots of zones where things start changing as you progress through the main storyline, and there's a lot of there's also plenty of chances for you to make your personal mark. Like I might not be the only dragoon in the game, but I can have whatever kind of look I want to being a dragoon. There's plenty of space setting wise for me to say there's space there for customizing who you are and who you look like, and see how the game changes over time. And that's not counting things like the housing districts and stuff where you can very clearly make your own mark on the game.
I guess it's a real question then for City of Heroes is where does that fit in with making an impact on the world? What is the impact on the world with City of Heroes?
Because somebody wants to name their baby Milk after my character.
Can't argue with that.
Milk Jones.
You can't beat having somebody run up to you and being like, please give me your autograph, and oh, you're so awesome, and don't forget the ones that eventually were like bowing down to you.
Yeah, that was kind of creepy. That like.
So is that really
and
just
the whole
immersion,
thank you. What?
I was gonna say, is that really immersion there, or is that just enjoying having a bunch of peons bowing at your feet?
Dude, I'm a superhero. I'm supposed to be this big badass that's taking out, like Ghost Widow and what was his name, Lord Arachnid or whatever.
Arachnos.
Arachnos, yes.
Get it straight. Come on. I mean.
Yes. So sorry, the game's been gone for years.
I know.
So,
we're all
I'm doing this. Yes, people should know my name. That is awesome to me. That's something that I've always loved, to have people run up to me and be like, "Oh, you're so awesome."
That's something.
And I've never had that in another game. Although WoW kind of does it a little bit with their garrisons, and Commander, and people all like, "Oh, this is amazing." And you go to Storm Shield, and suddenly they're like, "Oh, did you see that? That's Peach Pie or whatever your character's name is." Walking by, like they're gonna turn the tide. And
are all of your characters named after foods or drinks? Yes. That's excellent.
Yeah, I have peach pie, apple pie, cherry pie, pecan pie, pumpkin pie, and rhubarb pie.
Me so hungry.
So yeah, you're walking by and somebody, and while they kind of have that, it's not exactly like City of Heroes, but that was probably the best. And
he's
again, I wasn't collecting 12 bear asses to level. Yeah, I had
back to the bear asses again.
All minions, but I wasn't collecting bear asses.
You're missing out.
I think that's where it is. I think the whole idea that you're feeling heroic and the NPCs are coming up to you and talking to you, so you do have that kind of impact on the world itself, and it really I think that ultimately, I mean, it was really, really close, because I think that with Final Fantasy tying everything into its setting is huge. That's monstrous. But ultimately, I think Laura won me over with the idea that you're feeling powerful, and that this is, you really feel like you've made an impact on the game itself. So the point goes to City of Heroes here this time.
Yeah.
When Eliot and I merge, we will destroy you.
Okay, we need a subgroup name, something like
Voltron.
So we are 2 questions in. We got 1 point to Eliot and 1 point to Laura, and so it's 1-1 to 0. And so we go into the third question, which is, if you could name only one mechanic, which MMO mechanic, not MMO, which MMO mechanic keeps you the most immersed in an MMO? And I'm going to go ahead and throw this one to Matt first, so go ahead.
Oh boy. Okay, so for me, I'm a huge fan of player-driven economies. That does a huge amount to immerse me in a game. I love the idea that, the sword that I'm carrying isn't just something that, a rat dropped for some unholy reason, and it's not just something that I went and bought off a vendor or anything like that. It's something that another player actually went through the trouble to gather the materials, refine the materials, produce the sword, and then it eventually made its way to me. That is something that just adds a lot of, well, I guess, meaning to things that, equipment usually is just stats, really, but it adds gives it a story almost, I guess. And I also include in that the idea of, I like games where it's not, I have a bunch of stuff to sell, I'll go to the auction house, and then anyone in the world can then buy it. I like the idea of, having to actually transport your goods from one place to another. It adds a sense of risk to it, especially in PvP games where they can be, hijacked or whatever. And especially, I'm a huge crafting fan. Like, I love crafting. I love the idea of being able to have a character who is renowned for being a crafter, for crafting the best swords or, the best armor, what have you. And so for me, that's my single most immersive mechanic, I think.
Okay, Elliot, same question. Over to you.
Housing is one of those things that, unfortunately has kind of, become less and less prevalent. But, like I remember I spent a whole bunch of time saving money, doing what I needed to do in 14 till I could finally get my medium house. Because when you have a house in a game, more even than just crafting things, that's taking a part of the game world and saying, this is mine. This belongs to me. My character lives here, works here. This part of the game world is not just, generic. It's not there for just venturing. It's there because I put it here. I shaped it. I made it what I want it to be. I am, master of this. It gives you reason to, invest, and you can make it almost, depending on the game, in a lot of games, you can make it almost anything. You can do so much different stuff with housing. It's a place to carve out a little piece of the world and say, this is my part of the world. It exists in connection with everything else, but this is my part, and it says something about me.
Okay, Laura, what's the most immersive mechanic for you in MMOs?
I've got two. One, rating, and two, character creation, but also sort of like with City of Heroes, being able to design your outfit and pick out your own outfit. Like, Star Wars, you can choose your clothes and be able to put stuff in. Like, that's what's for me. Playing dress up. Let's just say that, playing dress up for me.
Those are very polarizing. I'm going to have you pick one or the other. So
No, I refuse.
I'm sorry. Character creator
There
or
can be
rating?
only one.
I won't do it. I picked both of them.
Are you pulling
I like to play dress up in the raids.
So are you just throwing this like Matt did the last round?
I defend both
Well,
of
at least
them.
I waited until all the, I made my initial argument first.
I made my initial argument. Being able to design your character, that's a big way to start off feeling connected to the game.
What does that have to do with
Being able to choose your face and choose your hair, and it's really nice. And if they've got the body sliders where you can change everything about your person, not just like generic, everybody has this and you can pick one or two different things. And I like being able to pick out the clothes that I wear.
Okay.
So it sounds to me like you're picking character customization over rating.
Yeah. That's where I'm going with this. Is that character customization?
Which is a shame because I was really hoping to be able to argue against rating.
Yeah.
I could have gotten somewhere with that.
Oh
argument.
yeah, that would.
Yeah. Well, screw you guys.
All right. So wow. Man.
Oh, and it's strobe lighting again. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The technical issues of this particular.
I know. Yeah. So
At least they have high comedic value.
This immersion. You're probably not very immersed in the illusion that this is all, a seamless professional process.
Right. Exactly. All right.
Oh, okay. This is the laser. Okay, this is a laser pointer.
So one of the things between Matt and Eliot's, both of yours have this feeling of, of ownership to something that is within the game itself. And so what I would like to be able to differentiate here is, why is one better than the other? So let me go to, since we started with Matt, let me go back to Matt then and ask about, why is the crafting side and the player-driven economy more conducive to calling something your own within the game?
Okay, this one I will actually not concede. I think I might have an argument for this. Mostly it's the fact that, okay, for starters, in most games, housing is almost without fail, it's instanced to the point where only you and people that you allow to go into your house can actually go into your house. So most people are never going to
do you just let strangers go into your house?
Don't you?
No. What's the matter with you?
Well, hold on. I need to kick some people out real quick. No, but the fact is, most people will probably not ever see your house. Whereas with the crafting, if you craft a weapon or something like that and then sell it to someone, they may then sell it to someone who may then sell it to someone, whatever. And multiple people see that, the sword that they are using, assuming it's for a game that shows who crafted your weapon, will know that the weapon they're using was crafted by you. And weapons, armor, that kind of thing plays a much bigger role in the actual core parts of most games than housing does. Housing is wonderful. Housing is one of my favorite features by a long shot. But it's extra, it's fluff. Whereas the economy is an intrinsic core part of the game, and both mechanically and world-wise. So being able to say, that you crafted the weapon of, basically you can become renowned more or less by being an excellent crafter, or by creating the weapons and armor for people who are well known on the server, or what have you. And I just feel like that's more interesting of a legacy. It allows you to almost leave a legacy in the form of the items that you craft, which I think is more interesting and more immersive than just being able to play interior decorator, which I love doing, obviously, but is ultimately not a huge part of the game.
What's your rebuttal to that one, Eliot?
Well, Matt's saying, okay, well, a weapon and art, you can have this chain of ownership for a weapon. Right, but here's the thing, and I think this is true for a lot of people, you don't particularly care about that chain of ownership. You care, when I'm in the middle of combat, I'm not, say, all right, I'm going to go in and, oh, wait, this weapon, wow, this sword, this was owned by so many people. Oh, my God, look at this sword's chain of ownership. No, I care if the sword works. In the vast majority of games, you can't even tell, the difference at a glance. You can just tell, okay, this is a sword, and, oh, here's a line that says who made it. That's great. That's super. That's special. But it's, it doesn't give you the same kind of, large-scale ownership. Furthermore, there's also the sense that, if you're talking about a player or an economy where you've got, weapons for sale, armor for sale, potions for sale, none of this stuff is for any purpose other than killing stuff. You're by definition, if you don't have housing in there, housing is what while Matt's saying that, crafting, these armors and these weapons and things are more ubiquitous, I'm saying that this is what gives that some flavor. This is what gives you, a market for having crafters that, oh, he made a really great piece of furniture for me, or, oh, that guy made a really interesting house. Yeah, not as many people are going to see it, but we're not talking about their immersion so much as we're talking about your immersion. What makes you feel like you're invested in this game? And it's not just carving a reputation, it's carving, this is my space. I have made this space. I have, been given this canvas, and I made something out of it.
So Ellie mentioned that your immersion, and I think that plays right into character creators. So how does character creation then, obviously, I mean, that's you, that's your character. How does that weigh in with that?
It's kind of like you said, this is your first step into the world, is making the tune that you play. and you can't be more connected to it than that. I mean, housing isn't in every game. Not everybody likes to sit there and mess with interior decorating or putting stuff together. You know, a lot of times I think housing ends up becoming just kind of a glorified bank for some people. But everybody cares about how their tune looks. Like, I don't really know anybody that plays a game and just says, oh, I'm just going to hit the random button and whatever comes up is what I go with. Maybe they're not spending hours like I did poring over whether or not I should go with brown hair or the light brown hair or the brown hair with blonde highlights. But people are sitting there saying, you know, I do care about whether or not I have long hair, if I have short hair, if I have, you know, what clothes my character is wearing. Those are all things that are important, and it's the first step that you take towards going into the world.
How does Matt? How does the player-driven economy equate to personal immersion? I think that's really kind of the theme here with the other arguments is that player-driven economies don't have personal immersion. How does?
I mean, I guess that's fair. I mean, sorry.
No, dude, dollar bill, yo. You gotta make that money.
Well, obviously, it's all about the Benjamins, as they say. But, I mean, I guess really it's kind of a your mileage may vary kind of thing. Because to me, that is really immersive. The idea that, you know, and of course, it does rely to an extent on the game having an interesting crafting system where, you know, not everyone is churning out the same exact, you know, replicas of the same weapon. You know, it requires a system that allows you to create, you know, some crafters to create weapons that are better than the ones that would be created by others, which not many or all games have. But to me, when that does exist, it's much more interesting to think that, you know, hey, even, you know, when if I stop playing this game, I could still be, you know, leave my mark on the world in the form of the things that I created and sold or, you know, gave or whatever to other people. And to me, it's just a personal thing, I guess. It's just so interesting to be able to leave your mark, like leave a lasting impact on the world, even one as minor as, you know, selling someone a particularly nice sword that you made. And knowing that, my train of thought just went completely off the rails, I'm sorry.
How about Auction House PvP?
So what?
Auction House
PvP.
And Laura,
yeah, that's the only PvP that matters. Yeah, exactly. But not even just the market side of it. Just the fact that, you know, you can leave some kind of legacy and do, you know, if you're a particularly good crafter or particularly skilled crafter, high level crafter, whatever, who makes the best weapons or armor or whatever in the game, you know, you can leave a legacy behind you as a result. Whereas with your house, you know, it's great and it is a great little, you know, area to say, you know, this is mine, but it doesn't really, to me, immersion is being able to impact the world in a way that is noticeable not only to you but to others. And the housing doesn't really accomplish that, whereas the whole crafting, being able to make a name for yourself as a crafter, that does. And for me personally, that is more immersive.
Well, and since Laura is frozen here, and you've out kind of given Laura's frozen again, but at any rate, I'm going to go ahead and make a call on this one because I really, I think the main difference, and I kind of have to go with this, and even though I think the other two arguments are great, the only one that makes both an impact on the player that's doing it as well as the world that they live in is player-driven economy. That's because, I mean, housing, it doesn't really affect everybody. I mean, only the people that see it. Whereas player-driven economy, that affects everybody. So Matt gets the point there this time around. Congrats! Yay! Okay, so we have a situation where everybody has a point. All three of you have a point. So,
hell yeah! Three-way tie.
So this is
time for Jello wrestling.
This is going to boil down to...
Unfortunately, there's a fourth question.
There is a fourth question.
I know, I was hoping for the Jello wrestling too, but what can you do?
So whoever...
See, Eliot's all excited.
Whoever gets this one...
Just once I wanted to get to the Jello wrestling.
I'm sorry. Maybe next time.
That can be our celebration.
Right.
That's how we'll unwind from all this debate.
Okay, so... last question I for everybody to build their most immersing MMOs. I asked for them to give me 3 key features, which IP or genre, and then who would develop the game. And we started off with Eliot, so we're going to go back to Eliot. So hit me with your best shot.
Okay. Okay.
Please edit that out.
No,
that's staying in.
No,
it's totally
leave that
staying in. Totally staying in.
I hate you so much.
Okay.
I hate you.
So three key features. First of all, I want housing. Obviously, housing needs to be in there. Housing needs to be, elaborated. Housing should not just be a glorified bank or, a place to put stuff. It should have storage features. It should have, impact on your character. It should have, facilities, things that you want in your house, and plenty of opportunity, of course, to decorate it and play around with it as you feel the urge.
Okay.
Second, involved crafting. Final Fantasy XIV does this well. WildStar did it well if it were not for that game's unbelievable obsession with randomness in most of its crafting systems.
Oh my god.
But it had a really nice, involved crafting system. Even Rhizome did this well, aside from the fact that it had this strange, its actual crafting mechanic was click a button and watch a bar, but, really let you granulate the different materials that you used. So, something involved where you're really, paying attention to what you're crafting and paying attention to how you're crafting it. And I want a system, I like how, say, 14 lets you kind of mix and match between classes. I like how, you have some freedom and abilities when you had to get to something like the Secret World, but I think that's almost a little too flexible at times for designing some amounts of content. So, I'm thinking something where you kind of put your favorite elements of a class together and decide what do you want to play, somewhere between, say, the Secret World and, just for lack of a better example, City of Heroes, where you have individual classes with a bunch of different power sets, but they all kind of get to the same location. So something where you really kind of define, okay, I want my character to be able to do X, Y, and Z, and, you put all that together into one place. Setting, I'm going to go with a steampunk setting because we do not have nearly enough games that, kind of take that, idea of free will, take the whole Victorian aesthetic and put it into a more inclusive and open and diverse environment where you can have all sorts of freewheeling adventure taking place. And as for developers, based on what I've already said, I'm going to go with actually Square Enix if they somehow managed to buy out BioWare Austin. So somehow they had, they took their, class story writing, took some of their class story writing, took some of their team, some of their tricks, baked them into the core of what made Final Fantasy XIV so great, and, just put them together, mash them up, smoosh them together into some kind of indistinct gray blob, except distinct and not gray and not a blob.
All right, I'll take that. Laura, go ahead. What is your MMO? I haven't heard this one yet. But go ahead.
I was thinking superhero, and I'm going with this just because I really, really miss superhero games, and Champions was such a fail. Like, let's pretend it didn't exist. But also because
Exactly.
But also because with superheroes, you can kind of put it in different settings. Like you could put it in fantasy, you could put it in sci-fi, you could bring in steampunk. I think it kind of lends itself to lots of different things. 3 of the things that I would want: destructible world. If I can shoot laser beams from my eyes and I'm firing at a bad guy and there's a stop sign in the way, I want the stop sign to be melted. It is ridiculous that I can fire the laser beams and the stop sign is still standing there like nothing happened. So, destructible world. Obviously, raiding, because Larry knows I'm a big raider. I love it. It's one of the reasons that I continue to play MMOs. But not just raiding, but built-in scalable group content based on the size of the group that you have. So that would be cool. And then seamless movement. Because I'm tired of running, and I'm not talking like a giant rock that's supposed to be blocking something, but you're walking along and all of a sudden there's a little pebble on the ground and you get stuck on it and you've been AFK because you were getting a drink, and then you come back and you realize, oh, I'm stuck on this little pebble and I can't do anything. Like, my character should be smart enough to say, oh, this is not that big and I can step over it. So definitely seamless movement. And I don't care who builds it so long as it's not NCSoft, because fuck character collision. Absolutely. Fuck it. I hated that in City of Heroes. It was super annoying. I hate it in all the games that they do. I want 40 people to be standing right on top of each other.
Okay. Yeah, nothing's immersed. I know that when Matt and I, stand in the same place, we both kind of slowly clip into one another. So.
Well, we are merging, Eliot. So
it is true.
You're already forming up like Voltron. So
that's right. That's right. All right, Matt, go ahead. What is your MMO?
Okay, so my 3 features are going to have to be, obviously, player-driven economy for the reasons outlined in the previous question. This may be cheating, but I am going to say that also includes, like Eliot said, an in-depth crafting system that allows players to customize their creations, just because otherwise what's the point if everyone's making the same things anyway? And then I need some degree of open-ish PvP. I detest free-for-all PvP because it just leads to horrible amounts of griefing and so forth. But in order for the whole, player-driven economy thing to work, with the idea of having to transport your goods to the place you want them sold and all that jazz, it requires there to be a sense of risk in doing so, and that risk obviously generally comes from other players who want to hijack your shit. So, and that also, I'm a big fan of, and by which I mean I have an unhealthy obsession with being able to play like thieves and assassins, that kind of archetype. So that opens up that avenue, along with other avenues for character concepts like bodyguards or law enforcement, that whole kit and caboodle. So my third one then is going to have to be just a high degree of world interaction, from things as small as being able to, as mentioned earlier on, being able to sit in chairs at tables, maybe open and close doors, that kind of thing, to being able to, alter the world, maybe, housing. Just the players must be able to leave a lasting impact on the game world itself. I feel like, it's difficult to feel immersed in a game. One of the reasons I was so happy to be able to tackle the rating argument earlier was that it's hard to feel immersed when you go and you kill the big bad, you get his legendary mythical equipment, and then step outside the raid portal and see 20 other people with it. When you can't leave a lasting mark on the world in some way, when it's all just static forever, it's hard to feel like you're actually in a world at all. It doesn't do, nothing changes, So those are my 3 major features, I guess.
Yeah. And go ahead with the genre and the developer.
Genre, I would give some limbs and internal organs of the developers choosing to get a decent damn cyberpunk game. I need some cyberpunk in my life. There have been no real good cyberpunk games that I can remember, at least, or cyberpunk MMOs rather. And I want one really badly. I want them to pick the brain of like William Gibson and folks of that nature and make a nice, gritty cyberpunk game that's not Shadowrun. Because cyberpunk fantasy is great, but I just want some pure cyberpunk without the elves and the trolls and the magic.
But Shadowrun is awesome.
Shadowrun is awesome. I love Shadowrun, but
it's not really the same thing.
It's not exactly. It's not quite the same thing. And as far as developers concerned, I don't really have any particular fondness for a particular developer. Square Enix was on my list. Also, maybe Daybreak, because they did Star Wars Galaxies and Matrix Online, which, while completely unsuccessful, had some really cool live events and really immersive features. So, maybe they could do it right.
Matt, could I suggest Broadsword? Because I think what you just described is Cyberpunk Dark Age of Camelot.
Yeah, it actually kind of is, which, would make that a... Yeah, let's go with that, what he said.
All right.
Except for up until the setting, I was just going to... If you had gone with fantasy, I was actually going to say... I think you just described Dark Age of Camelot, dude.
You're probably right. But with
Or what Warhammer Online wanted to pretend it was.
Oh God! Please don't say those words around me.
All right, so
flashbacks.
Man, we have a like this is a huge swath. I mean, like we're all over the place. So I'm going to have to, in order to, I guess, do this argument correctly, I'm going to have to pick on the ones that are not obviously immersing. I mean, obviously things we haven't talked about before. Like, I mean, we've talked about housing, we've talked about player-driven economy. Obviously, we believe that those are pretty immersing. So what I would like to hear actually is from Laura. Why is rating and the scalable group content, why does that add to the immersion of the game?
Because that's what I like to do.
I mean, what
an honest answer.
Drop the mic.
But no.
No, don't drop the mic. We're going to hear bumping. We've had enough technical problems.
Mute it first, then drop it.
Then drop it, yeah.
This was an expensive mic. I don't want to drop it on the floor.
There's a bed.
I threw it on the ground.
What about that is immersing to you, and why is that more immersing than, say, I don't know, open world PvP?
Because I'm not really a huge fan of open world PvP.
Does that take you out of the game? I mean, why does that take you out of the game, and why does rating put you into the game?
Rating puts me into the game, and it kind of goes along with the people that you play with. That's always been a big thing for me about the games that I play and why I stay with them even after I'm kind of like, because I enjoy the group content and I enjoy tackling larger challenges with cool people. I can still remember one of my fondest memories is taking down a Farian, because we had finally gotten everybody together and it was such a challenge to get there, and we ended up had a guild split and re-rolled on another server. And so when we finally got to that point, sure, there had been lots of other people that had already beaten this content, but that feeling when we killed it was just, it was amazing. I mean, it's like I said, it's one of my fondest memories. I don't really know that I can describe it. It was just kind of like we were all cheering and screaming, and there was elation, and yeah. And it's fun, you want to be able to play with people, and that's why I also think that scalable group content is a good thing too. Because if you've got like, say, a group size of 5 people, and you have 6 people on, if you had something that could scale up to 6 people, that would be cool. Or again, City of Heroes, when you got together, you could take a mission, and yes, you could run it by yourself, and it would have 3 or 4 different, bad guys in it. But if you had more people in your group, the mission would get harder based on the amount of people that you had. So it wasn't like, 6 people were running through and then all of a sudden it was just a face roll. Like, you actually had to be careful because now you have more mobs in there that you've got this challenge of facing.
Totally makes sense. Why is, Matt, why is open world PvP better than something like that? Why is that more immersing to a player?
Okay. Because to me, again, as mentioned earlier, I am a pretty hardcore, diehard role player. And the crux of role-playing is interaction between characters, between 2 players. Because you can't really role-play with an NPC. They can't think. They can't really do that. And moreover, the crux of role-playing is conflict. Without conflict, you have no story. There's no real driving force for the interaction. And not every conflict has to involve combat, but a whole hell of a lot of them do, especially when everyone is armed to the teeth. I mean, it's just kind of going to happen. So for me, it allows conflict to be settled by combat in a way that is not done by just pure role-playing, which tends to lead to, neither player, it leads to a stalemate because neither player is willing to let their character suffer the indignity of losing when all they have to do is, maybe God mode a little bit, here and there to ensure that doesn't happen. And also, I feel like it opens up interesting avenues of, character concepts and interactions between different characters. You know, you can choose to play as a bounty hunter or a criminal or someone who hunts criminals or a bodyguard for, you know, a caravaneer. Just any number of things, and it's just conducive to. And I'm not advocating free-for-all PvP, but I do think some degree of open PvP is required to give that sense of risk and danger in the world, and to drive that conflict that in turn should be the driving force behind good roleplay, which to me is what immerses me.
All right, fair enough. Eliot, I have to ask about because we've kind of already established that housing and crafting, you know, are pretty key to immersion. What about the freedom with classes? How does that outweigh some of these other suggestions like raiding and open world PvP?
The thing is that, you know, raiding, open world PvP, those are content. And, you know, content can be as immersive or as non-immersive as the designers let it be. You know, you can have incredibly immersive, engaging, you know, raids. You can have, you can have good scaling content. You can have open world PvP that's incredibly immersive, although, you know, at that point it's not really role-playing. You're not, if, you know, you actually have a threat of people killing you along the way from one game point to another, and you're hiring, you know, people to guard your caravan, that's not role-playing. That's actually, you know, that's functionally the same as saying we need 2 more DPS for this dungeon run. It's the same, you know, basic thing. You're just crouching it in a few more terms. But the thing is that, you know, you can have both of those coexist in the same game. But if you don't have freedom of classes, if you don't have the freedom to define, this is the stuff my character can do, and it might not be the same as what other people can do. That's the core that you get at there when it gets, you know, as we were talking before about character creation, you know, this is something that a lot of games don't really let you do, in that, you know, not just creating your character in the sense of what do I look like, you know, what is my character's eye color, height, you know, muscle tone, all that, but what is my character able to do? What sort of tricks does my character have? Sometimes even unexpected ones. Maybe, you know, like Matt, you like playing, you know, a stealthy, tricky character, but you also, you know, really like playing that stealthy, tricky character with ranged weapons. In some games, you can't make that combination. Maybe you like having a stealthy, tricky mage who, you know, you're stealth, you're hidden, but, you know, when you come out of, you know, the shadows, you're flinging fireballs left and right. So, you know, sort of a shock and awe thing. All of a sudden, here you are out of stealth.
Suddenly you're
fireball. Yeah. So the thing is that, you know, you can morph that to fit any kind of content you want in the game. But you can't morph content to fit, you know, having these options for making your character. If you have open PvP, you don't have open PvP, either one of those can work with, you know, making your own class, but, you know, having open PvP actually, in some ways, it can kind of diminish your choices in terms of what you can do with your character, because the developers then have to consider what happens if there's a degenerate combination. What happens if there's something that's, you know, I mean, look at the problem that Darkfall has had over the years, and they've kept going back and forth on this, where, you know, you have open PvP, and the designers are very reluctant to say, no, you can't have your instant teleporting, instant fireballing, you know, heavy armor wearing death machine. And that's the core problem, is that they don't want to let players not have this, but then every fight becomes a match between the instant teleport, instant fireball death machine and everyone else who just gets, you know, whose bodies just litter the ground because you can't compete on any level with them. Similarly, you know, when you've got raids, you know, sometimes if you have scaling content is better for that, but again, that doesn't require, that can, you know, be made with fixed classes, that can be made with flexible classes, but you can't, you know, raids alone don't make your class or your character more flexible.
So I'm going to let Matt and Laura both rebut that particular statement there, because I think that basically what Eliot's saying here is that it encompasses more. That basically his idea is behind the freedom with the classes kind of incorporates both of that. You can't have raiding, you can't have open world PvP without the class thing. And let me go ahead and go to Matt first here. And why is open world PvP or open world-ish PvP better than the freedom with classes?
Okay. First off, I don't think it's necessarily better than the freedom of classes. Ideally, I'd like to have both. But I do want to, I take issue with what Eliot said about how, you said if you have a caravan that can be hijacked and you hire bodyguards, it's no different than saying, need 2 more DPS and that's not role-playing. You're right, that is not in and of itself role-playing, but it does lead to more immersive role-playing opportunities. Say World of Warcraft, for instance, where there is, say you're on a PvE server in World of Warcraft, just for example, because it's widely known. You can role-play that you're an assassin or a thief or a bodyguard or a caravaneer or what have you all day long. You can, act like one and, pretend to sell things to people or pretend to steal from people or stuff like that. But ultimately, there is no mechanical backup for it. Whereas with the open PvP, as I've been talking about, you do. You can say you're a bounty hunter, and then you can actually go hunt someone for their bounty. You can say you're a bodyguard, and then you can actually hire yourself out as a bodyguard. You can say you're an assassin, actually hire yourself out as an assassin, and actually do those things within the game. It removes the divide between the role play and the game itself. Whereas right now, in most games, there's a huge divide. You can't actually do half the things that you say your character does, purely because you cannot, go steal someone's stuff or go kill someone or go hijack a caravan, what have you. And what it ultimately boils down to is, like I was saying earlier, the whole leaving a legacy. If you're a really awesome, badass assassin, and you manage to kill a target that no one has been able to kill, people are going to remember you for that. If you're a really great bodyguard, your name's going to spread around and more people are going to start hiring you, and you will be remembered for being a great bodyguard. And that to me is, that leaving that impact on the game world is what makes immersion for me. And so you're right, it's not role-playing in and of itself, but it's more conducive to providing those opportunities for role-playing and providing players the opportunities to actually do in the game what they say their character does in role-play. And, I don't think it's necessarily better than the open class or the freedom of classes thing, but I don't think that it's intrinsically, worse either.
All right, Laura, why does... Okay, the big thing that I have with rating, and I basically what we're battling here is the different kinds of immersion. Because, like with Matt and Eliot, it might be a little bit unfair having Matt and Eliot here because we know they're both role players as far as that's concerned. Laura isn't, which is perfectly fine, obviously, as a gameplay style. But the big thing is what I would like to hear is how I guess how rating and how scalable group content and basically PvE content in general, how that helps you focus more on the game, makes you feel like you're a part of what's happening versus like open world PvP, or I guess, and why that's more important than having different kinds of classes that you can play, like picking up different weapons and those kinds of things.
Well, I think to a degree, some of it's the carrot on the stick. That you've always got to have something that you're working towards. As far as having the freedom to be able to just switch and choose at random, I think you end up in a situation where it's kind of the flavor of the month. I mean, it just makes it a nightmare to balance anything. You've got people that are saying, this is overpowered and it's not fair, and so then you just end up with a bunch of people who are all rolling the same thing because this happens to be what's the popular build for the month. And how is that giving you the special snowflake feel? Because now you're just like everybody else. And again, as far as PvP goes, everybody's kind of got to have that gear to be able to participate, because it's no fun for anybody to go into a PvP match knowing that you're just going to be steamrolled by the other people that have been doing whatever. And if you're on a, and you can sit there and role play, sure, and I'm going to say that I love you for saying that you want to actually kill people when you're going to get into conflict, because I hate watching people and listening to people talk about how they're going to have to roll the dice to see what their character does. That's just so stupid to me. You have a complete mechanic in the game where you can just battle it out, and that's how it should be. So yes, I totally love your argument for that. But again, you have people in the game that are going to play specs and classes that are not always going to be equal to, to whatever the strong class is, whether that's the assassin that can get behind you and stealth, that has a lot of stuns, that has a lot of burst damage. not everybody is going to want to play that, and it's really no fun when you're rolling up against a crew who comes in and they're just kind of a murder squad that's like, well, we're gonna come behind you and you're gonna die because you literally have no defense against it. And at least with PvE content, sure, you can totally roleplay going in there. I'm not a role player, but I have gotten into groups where people have wanted to roleplay out what their character is doing, and they want to roleplay the scenario of what's going on in the instance. And like I said, I don't do that much, but it's something that goes on, and people have fun with it, and that's good for them. And isn't the part of the purpose for roleplay? Isn't that to include more people there? Isn't that to get people to come in so that you can expand your group so that you have more people to play with? As opposed to just saying, well, it's our little 5-man crew that's going to roll here, and the rest of you, sorry about your luck. Guess you better find your own little clique.
Bye.
Is there any rebuttals to that? Real quickly, just a couple of sentences or anything. Nope.
I think we've all been rebutted. All
right. I just wanted to make sure.
We've rebutted our rebuttals.
Yeah, that's right.
The horse is glue. What do you have now, Eliot? Is that a cat?
It's a cat comb.
It's a cat comb.
Yeah,
what is your obsession with the thing? Matt, I'm not married to you. I don't have to.
I have one of them too.
You're not? I thought what we had was special.
It is. We have a special relationship. You're the guy I cheat on my wife with.
Oh.
All right. So
I can't say that about any other guy. Lots of other girls and a couple of other guys. But none of them are named Matt.
Oh.
Okay, one of them goes by Matthew, but...
Damn it.
All right. So, man, this is really tough because I absolutely understand everybody's point of view here. I mean, I think that they're all extremely solid arguments, and nothing irks me more personally whenever I'm in a game like or in any game, and let's say Star Wars: The Old Republic and WoW is a good example of this as well, where I can use one kind of blaster in Star Wars: The Old Republic, but I can't use another one that is almost exactly the same, that all I have to do is pull the trigger and it pretty much does the same thing. So that's huge for me. Is she coming back?
I hope so.
She's not frozen on my screen.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I had a little connection.
I think she was just holding very, very
turn
still.
on another light because I think.
All right. So
well, Larry froze. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, Larry froze for me, and everyone else was just like not doing anything.
Oh.
And then
nice.
Matt nodded like he'd said something, and I'm like, I can't hear.
Okay. So anyway, so I can completely understand that, and I definitely understand, seeing a blaster on the ground and not being able to use that for whatever, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And so but I have to say, though, unfortunately for me, that's not as immersion killing is if I run into a situation where in PvP or raiding where it just absolutely it's not as important to me for immersion, I should say, as like being into whatever the story is for the raid, or being able to envelop myself into the world itself. So honestly, this is for me, it's between raiding and between open world PvP. Like, for instance, I mean, with Star Wars Galaxies had a pretty it was almost an opt-in kind of situation. That was pretty interesting.
They had a good bounty system.
Yeah, their bounty system was
one of my favorites.
Yeah, and that had to do with the world building itself. But ultimately, I have seen, and this is really what it boils down to for me, unfortunately. And Laura made some strong arguments regarding it, and what she called to mind was situations in open world PvP that absolutely take you out of immersion of the moment and take you out of the moment, because you know for a fact that the only reason that guy beat you is because he's the flavor of the month and not because he is a better PvPer than you. And so therefore, and I'm giving the point to Laura, and that means the game goes to Laura. So you guys,
Alright, so
everybody has some
I'll go get the
excellent
Jello.
All right, so
We're not wrestling now, Matt.
What? That's the only reason I showed up to this shit.
Someone
man.
won. God, you don't pay any attention. This is why you're just one of the guys I cheat on my wife.
All right, so I'm gonna go to Laura first, and
There is no love there, Matt.
Laura, go ahead and I guess tell us where we can find you on the internet and what you've been doing recently.
You can find me on Twitter. My handle is @VoidMinx. I'm also on Instagram @VoidMinx. You can watch some of my progress pictures for my cosplay that I work on. I have a Twitch channel that I don't stream on super frequently, but that's probably going to change. So that is also VoidMinx, and it's VoidMynx.
Excellent.
And you can find me all there. And of course, you can find me in Star Wars with Nefarious Intent. Wednesdays and Sundays, rating if Larry's streaming.
All right, let me go to Matt. Tell us, Matt, where can
find
we find
me
you?
nowhere on the internet. Nowhere. I am a digital ghost.
You're digital
No,
ghost.
He's the dude that we pulled off the street.
Oh, that's right. We pulled you off the street.
But he's not
See?
the dude.
If I were the dude, I would have something much more important to be doing right now.
No, you wouldn't. That's the entire definition.
Point. But no, I don't really keep up with the Twitters or anything like that, unfortunately. I just... sorry, I have no defense. I'm just here because you were kind enough to invite me, but no, nothing to plug. Carry on to Eliot.
All right, Eliot, go ahead. Where can we find you on the internet, and what have you been doing lately?
I can be found on the Twitters at Eliot_Lefebvre. And go ahead and check the credits for the spelling, because, you know, it's not, once you notice, it's not hard. L-E, F as in Frank, E, B as in boy, V as in Victor, R-E.
Yeah, I'm actually going to have to make it.
I think that made it more complicated.
I am going to have to explain this to everybody, because the font that's on this makes the V kind of look like a U. So it is Lefebvre. So,
yep.
Yeah. Anyway.
But, and then I can also have my personal site, which also has a Patreon. So that's Eliot-Lefebvre.com. I can be found on Massively Overpowered. I'm one of our senior reporters. I write columns, several Wisdom of Nim, Wow Factor, alternating Perfect Tens with Justin. I write Beta Watch. I write What Are You Playing? I also write, I also write a Shaman column over on Blizzard Watch. I also write videos. I also write, I do a lot of things.
Hold on, let me write this shit down.
Yeah. Follow me on Twitter.
Okay, so
we have
doing things.
we all
You
have
should
all
follow
that.
him just because he's got some pretty awesome sideburns there.
Oh, he has the world's greatest sideburns. He has a medal for
I
it.
trimmed him special, just
I
today.
gave it to him.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
Oh my God! You're bringing this up now. We're doing this.
Yeah,
now, Matt.
yeah, we are. Yes,
Oh my
we
God!
are.
Oh, I
Yup.
can't believe. Okay, I can't deal with this right now.
That's right. Walk away, like you always do.
I cannot do this.
Always do.
I cannot do this right now, Matt.
All right. Well, if you want to find, oh my God, I've lost total control of the show.
Oh my gosh, the drama, and it's not even by the chick.
If you want to find more of what I'm doing on the internet, you can follow me at Shadow SHADDOE, and of course catch me over at Massively OP, which is massivelyop.com. And it's just me on the screen now, guys. They can't even see you.
Doesn't matter. That's probably for the best.
You should put this in.
Right.
No.
I'm also. You can also follow Massively at Massively on Twitter. We are Massively Overpowered pretty much everywhere else. So, thank you, and we'll see you next week. We'll go out with dancing and sunglasses.